Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dean Dale Merrill here at the College of the Arts, and I'd like to welcome you to the Women Alumni in the Arts presentation. So before we get started, though, I would like to take a moment. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Togva Nation. We want to thank them and pay our respect to these indigenous land caretakers of the past, present, and emerging. I also want to take a second to acknowledge the sad, tragic loss in our Asian community in Atlanta and the troubling increase of hate crimes to this community. We as artists know that we have to do things to stop racial hatred, bias, systemic racism, and the oppression of marginalized groups. And we as a community of artists, we can take the power of our art form and of our artistic practice, and we can make change. And I encourage you to do so. So March is National Women's Month. And I think it's really important that we take time to acknowledge all that women have done to further and increase the power of art in our community. And at the beginning of the month, we had scholars present research papers on some really amazing artists in our community and the impact that they've had. So this event started about 5 years ago, where we take some time to honor the accomplishments of women who have graduated from our program. And they're here to help inspire us and to help maybe some of you that are about to graduate start with on your journey. So to lead us today, it is my privilege to introduce the moderator of today's event, Ayanna Lewis. And Ayanna is a music major. She is a music education major, and she's about to graduate, which really makes me sad. But I'm excited because Ayanna is going into the credentialing program, so we'll get to see her around just a little bit longer. Ayanna, you have shown such tremendous leadership in our college, and I know you're going to go out there and just do amazing things. So without further ado, Ayanna Lewis.
Well, hi to all of our students and all of our guests. I am so honored to be here, and I am so honored to be a part of this event. We are here to learn from so many amazing Titans, and they're going to show us that once again, Titans do reach higher in everything they do. And I am so beyond excited for this. So like Dean Merrill said, I am a music education major. I'm about to graduate this year. And so I know for me that learning from these amazing women is going to be so beneficial. So why don't we get right into it? So our first panelist today, her name is KRISTEN PRINCIOTTA. She graduated from Cal State Fullerton in 2012 with her Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance and is a professional soprano, a session singer, a voice teacher, and a teacher trainer. She has sung professionally throughout California, both as a classical and contemporary vocalist. She also serves as the teacher support and development manager at Songbird Studios, where she hires, trains, and provides continued education for their team of voice teachers. As you may know, KRISTEN is also the voice of the mom on the popular animated children's show CoComelon. It was YouTube's most viewed channel in the US with over 100 million subscribers and 97 billion views. And it was also ranked #1 on Netflix in 2020. KRISTEN has been a voice on the show for the last 9 years and continues to pursue a career in studio singing, which is what she is here to talk about today. So KRISTEN, let's hear a little bit from you.
When you're scared or feeling blue, there is something you can do. There's a place that you can go that is always filled with joy.
what makes you happy.
All right, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen. Ayana, thank you so much for that really touching introduction. You have me so inspired with your energy. I'm really just so honored to speak among such amazing artists who are so dedicated to their craft, both the other panelists as well as all of you students watching from home. So thank you. As was mentioned, and as you just saw, I am the voice of the mom on CoComelon. I do still sing classically as well, so I do a lot of crossover. But with the time we have today, I'm just going to share a little bit about my journey with CoComelon, and then also some insight into the session singing industry for any of you potentially interested in pursuing studio singing. So there's now a little over, I think around 600 of those videos on YouTube, like the one you just saw. And Netflix has hour-long compilations of those shorter videos stitched back to back, you know, for when parents need to make dinner or take a shower. But rewinding back to the beginning, soon after graduating with my performance degree, shout out to Professor Smith, who I believe is here, my amazing voice teacher. I owe so much to her. So soon after graduating, I was browsing Craigslist, as you do, or did at that time at least, and came across a post looking for a nursery rhyme singer. And I thought, what the heck? Opera, nursery rhymes, why not? And the next thing you know, I was on the phone with the producer, and he asked me to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star over the phone. True story. So I did, and that was that. I always say I wish I had kind of a more glamorous audition story to tell, but that is truly what happened. For the first year or so singing with them, I recorded at the producer's home in Irvine. But about a year and a half into it, I ended up moving to Northern California when I invested in some home studio equipment so that I could continue to record remotely from home, which is what I've been doing for the last 7 years or so, and has provided so much flexibility as an artist to just be able to record pretty much anywhere. So that's been great. In the beginning, CoComelon did not have the popularity it has now. It was just an everyday YouTube channel with a modest amount of views. I had no idea it was going to grow to the point that it did. I mentioned a little earlier to Mike that truthfully, I was almost a little embarrassed about it at first graduating with my opera degree. You know, I didn't want to tell anyone I was singing nursery rhymes. But I think it's just such a good reminder that you really never know where an opportunity is going to take you. And for me, my journey with CoComelon is what has given me the confidence to continue pursuing a career in session singing, which has kind of always been a dream, but never would I have imagined a post on Craigslist, let alone singing nursery rhymes, would have gotten me there. But here we are. So speaking of session singing, I thought I'd share a few quick slides for anyone who might be interested in pursuing this type of work. And I'm totally happy to email this PowerPoint to anyone after the fact, because I know we're short on time, so I might be swiping through kind of quick. And if singing isn't your art form, hopefully some of these concepts still translate in some ways for you. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, that and that. All right, and then I just have to pull this down. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can see that okay. And so are you interested in pursuing session singing? And what is session singing? I know it can be kind of a mysterious industry, so let's talk about it a little bit. So session singing is essentially singing for film, television, recording sessions, live performances, any and all of the above. It can mean singing on a film score or soundtrack for a movie, either in a choir. I know Dr. Eistad has gotten some of you probably some of those really great opportunities, or solo. It can mean voicing an animated character like CoComelon or a Disney character. It can mean dubbing the singing voice of an actor, i.e. Marnie Nixon, if any of you know who she was. Back in the day, she was the voice for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady. She was actually the singing voice in West Side Story. And it can also mean singing backup vocals for well-known artists and high-up gigs. So any and all of that falls under the umbrella of session singing. So what skills are required in order to pursue this type of work? And a lot of these you're probably already doing in your studies. But one is the ability to learn music quickly. This might sound obvious, but it is really important, particularly with classical or choral gigs. You're oftentimes asked to come in and sing on the spot, so strong sight reading skills. For pop contemporary oriented gigs, sight reading might not be required, but being able to pick up a song by ear on the spot might be. So just having strong ear training for that. Secondly, the importance of being versatile. So the more flexibility you can develop crossing over to different styles, the more opportunities you will have. And what's really helped support me in developing versatility, coming from an operatic background, which I still do, is a deepened knowledge in the science and the science and physiology of the voice. So the more you know about how your instrument works and can kind of dive into laryngeal mechanics, the more easily and safely you'll be able to adjust to different calibrations and belting and things like that for other styles. Lastly, the ability to sound authentic in the style being asked of you. So this one's really important. It's really best to hone in on like 1 to 3 styles max that you know you can sing authentically. Vocal contractors like to hire singers they can place, if that makes sense. For example, so my 3 would be musical theater, classical, and like some standard pop, but I would never claim to specialize in R&B, rock and roll, and country, right? I could sing the songs, but it wouldn't sound authentic. And what can help with this is to just begin to pay attention to your own unique vocal signature and characteristics that others recognize in your voice. You may begin to notice a pattern. For example, I think the number one thing I'm told about my voice is that I sound like a Disney princess. And truthfully, I think I resented that a little bit at first. It always drove me nuts when I heard that. But then I've come to embrace it over the years because it's gotten me a lot of really great opportunities. So let's see what's next here. And what are some things that you can do now to work towards this career path? I won't talk about the obvious things like vocal health and practicing and all that, because I know you all are doing that. But we all know how important networking is. So beginning to immerse yourself in the scene. There's a couple of Facebook groups. I know for you younger people, Facebook's not cool anymore, apparently, but there are some groups on there. Singer Friends LA, as well as LA Session Singer Community, where there's session singers, some producers in there. So that's one way to start getting connected. As well as starting to explore and connect with vocal contractors. So vocal contractors are essentially the people who hire you to sing, kind of like an agent, but in the session singing world specifically, vocal contractors are usually who hire you. For example, Tim Davis is a Hollywood producer and vocal contractor in Southern California, and he holds live training events and studio singer intensives for session singers, where he gives you live experience on the mic and feedback, which is really wonderful. I actually attended one of his advanced workshops last year, right before the pandemic, actually. And I have a little clip here I'll play for you. This was me standing in the studio when it wasn't my turn to sing, so I was able to snap a little video. It was a lot of fun, if you can tell. Let's see, what else do we have here? Another thing that you can do that many of you may have already done, especially with the pandemic, is invest in a home setup. And all you really need to record from home, it's really not a lot. Just a mic, headphones, an interface, which is what connects your mic to your computer, and recording software like GarageBand, Logic, or Pro Tools. And if you do put your money anywhere, I do recommend putting it into the microphone, because the microphone is what captures the quality of your sound. But for example, whether you record in GarageBand or Pro Tools won't make a difference in the quality of your voice. So if you really decide to put your money somewhere, the mic is the way to go. I'm due to do this soon because all of my old recordings are old. but to record a demo reel. So a demo reel is essentially a 2-minute, 3-minute max compilation of back-to-back snippets of you singing. So like a snippet of musical theater, a snippet of pop, snippet of jazz, something like that, that shows your best work. You can either hire a producer to do this, or if you're confident enough, you can self-record and then maybe just hire a sound guy to just clean it up for you. This is what you would end up sending to vocal contractors. And oftentimes they only listen to like the first 10, 15 seconds. So put your best foot forward at the beginning if you can. And overall, just things to remember: your dreams can and will be a moving target. I think that's like the biggest thing I've learned. So keep an open mind and be open to the possibilities, because you really never know where a gig's going to take you, no matter how small it may seem at the time. And we hear it all the time, but it's true. Networking is everything. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You know, I like to say people won't know your art unless you show it to them. In college, all of your professors know your skill and are able to offer you opportunities based off that, which is wonderful. But once you're out in the outside world, you really have to be diligent and actively reach out to people, and then reach out again and again. And you want to be that person that makes the effort to follow up, because that can make all of the difference. But that is pretty much what I had for today, and I look forward to your questions and for chatting more at the end. Mike, it seems like I can't use my mouse right now for some reason oh, never mind, I got it. Here we go. I just wanted to stop my sharing. Did that work? And then let me get back over here. Okay, so yeah, that's me. Thank you for listening.
All right, Kristen, thank you so much for sharing all of that amazing information with us and for sharing your personal story with us. It really, really means a lot. And I know I don't just speak for myself when I say that. All right, well now, our next panelist that we're going to be talking about is Stormy Gaylord. So Stormy began her dance training at Laguna Dance Theater in Mission Viejo, California. After high school, she obtained her associate's degree in dance from Irvine Valley College. As she worked towards her AA, she discovered her love for modern dance. She then transferred to CSUF and graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's degrees in dance and a certification in globalization. While at university, she studied ballet, Horton, Graham, and Limon techniques. In CSUF's repertory dance company, Stormy worked with guest choreographers Brian Cohn, Jessica Condrath, and Colin Connor. Stormy continues to work in Orange County as a freelance artist and as a company member in the Reborn Dance Interactive and Fuse dance companies, while also pursuing her master's degree online in mass communication from the University of Florida. In addition, Stormy has worked at the Disneyland Resort for 8 years, performing in parades such as Mickey's Soundsational Parade, the Paint the Night Parade, the Main Street Electrical Parade, and the Magic Happens Parade. Some of her recent professional performance credits include Reborn Dance Interactive's Omniscopic in 2019, the HHII Dance Festival with Fuse Dance Company in 2020, and the Cinderella Medley music video starring Todrick Hall and Brandy in 2021.
Thank you so much, Ayana. Hi, everyone. I'm Stormy. I would say nice to see everyone, but I can't see anyone, but nice to see you, Ayana. So yeah, I'm just gonna start off by showing a quick little reel of all the things that I've done since graduating in December 2018. So yeah, Mike, if you could just start that reel and then I'll talk after.
A lovely night, a final night, you know you'll never see. Why would a fella want a girl like her?
Thanks, Mike. So yeah, that's just a quick little reel of all the like performance things that I've done since graduating. Like I said, I graduated from the dance program in December 2018. And also shout out to all of my professors who may or may not be watching. Love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Who continue to still guide me today. Yeah, so actually prior to graduating, I was hired at the Disneyland Resort in 2013. So that's when my journey started there. I was hired as an entertainment host in 2013 and auditioned for parades for about 2 years until I got hired to go into parades in 2015. And I actually did parades with Devon, who you're going to hear from in just a little bit, which is really cool. So yeah, that took a while to get into parades. And then I've been working for Disney for, like I said, or like Ayana said, 8 years now. And that has led to so many connections. And while it's not my ultimate goal to stay at Disney forever in parades, it is really fun. And it has opened a lot of doors as far as like networking goes. Just to kind of echo what KRISTEN said, always, you know, reach out to people, connect with people, because that's going to lead to a lot of opportunities. So aside from Disney, I've also worked at Teatro Martini, like you saw in the reel, which is a dinner theater show. I had to audition for that twice before I got in. So there's a theme of consistency here. But yeah, so with Teatro Martini, I was a server and singer, dancer. And so simultaneously, while serving guests a 4-course meal, I got to perform in the show as a jewel dancer and singer. So that was really fun. And so those were kind of the things that like paid the bills. And then other work that I've done, company work, as you saw in the reel, I'm with Fuse Dance Company, which is a modern contemporary company based in Southern California. And with Fuse, there is another theme of consistency there. The director, Josh Estrada Romero, he is a faculty member at Cal State Fullerton. And I actually didn't really work for him prior to graduating, or work with him prior to graduating. I went to like one master class of his, but I didn't really know him that well. But after graduating, I was very consistent in showing up to his classes and going to Fuse Dance Company performances. And so with that consistency, it allowed Josh to kind of get to know me better. And then when I auditioned for his company, I felt more comfortable with his movement because I had been going to his classes. And so I've been with that company for, I think, like a year and a half now. And I love it. We get to travel sometimes and we perform locally as well. And so, yeah, that's my experience with Fuse. And then with Reborn Dance Interactive, which is also like a modern contemporary dance company based here, although the movement is very different from Fuse. So the director of Reborn, her name is Baroga Nagy. I found out about that audition on Instagram. I didn't know about the company at all, but I decided, hey, why not? And I showed up to the audition. And before we had heard back from the audition, I saw that Baroga was teaching a class, a Horton class, later that week. And so I showed up to the class because I wanted to get that sort of exposure with her a little more and, you know, get to know her more. And I love her Horton class, by the way. And then after that, a few days later, I found out that I had gotten into the company, which has also been an amazing experience. So it's really cool to be a part of those two companies and get the variety of choreography and style from those two amazing artists. And then with Reborn, I think in the video you saw that it was the video that was like very dramatic, the clip with like a bunch of people around and there were like screens up. So that was a performance we did in 2019, and Reborn's sort of mission statement is all about bringing the audience into the dance performance. So that's been a really cool thing to be a part of, is interacting with your audience in non-traditional performance spaces. So other than that, I also do freelance work. In the video, that Cinderella medley music video, I did that just like a month or two ago. And that was choreographed by Todrick Hall. And obviously you saw Brandy was there, which was super amazing opportunity, so cool. And normally with that kind of commercial work, you would get that sort of work with an agent and going to auditions, being like a represented commercial dancer, which I am not. I don't have an agent or anything, but I happen to know a friend. It was like a friend of a friend situation, and they needed someone last minute, and I happened to look like the person that they needed, and so I got into that there. So again, reinforcing the importance of networking and just really getting to know the people in the community that, or in the industry that you're wanting to go into, because that can lead to so many opportunities. And then some other freelance work that I've done, you saw in the video, was the Elucidators film, choreographed by Denzel Green, who is an alum of Cal State Fullerton, and the Next of Kin show by the Wayward Artists at the Santa Ana Black Box Theater, the Cal State Fullerton Black Box Theater. That was really cool too. I didn't even really know the choreographer of that performance either, but one of the producers of the show, Natalie Baldwin, she saw me and my boyfriend on social media. She saw that we were both dancers, and so she reached out to us and asked if we wanted to do that. So it's really cool how these opportunities can come about in ways that you don't even expect. Other than that, I am going back to school, earning my master's degree online from the University of Florida. My degree is in mass communication with a specialization in public interest communication. So I know that's a lot of words. Essentially what it means is that we are learning strategies for how to become effective social change communicators or social change advocates. So that can be like working in a nonprofit organization, trying to bring about social change, whether that's, you know, protecting the environment, or a nonprofit like Black Lives Matter, or it could be, you know, working in politics as you know, a policymaker that can implement legislation that would help, you know, bring about social change. Or it can be something as simple as, you know, a person posting on social media who is really passionate about a cause, and they post about it on social media, talk to their family, try to get them to vote on a specific topic. So that's what I'm really interested right now in, and I'm in my second semester of that program. And what I want to try to do is see if I can merge that with dance. Because I've always been really passionate about dance that, you know, kind of has like a social or political comment in it. I've been a part of a lot of dance works that are like that. And I don't know, they just really move me. For example, I've been in a piece by Lisa Long, a professor at Cal State Fullerton, about the Me Too movement, and a professor at Cal State Fullerton as well, Colin Connor, his piece about immigration and things like this. And so I feel like there is also room for this type of art to make more of an impact. And so I think if we combine these strategies that we learned in public interest communication along with the art, then I think that there is potential for more tangible change. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do, is sort of be a liaison between these two fields as a dancer and a public interest communicator. I have no idea how much time I have left. I did not even look at the time, but Ayana or anyone else, just let me know whenever it's time. Other than that, since graduating, I earned my 200-hour power yoga teaching certification through Core Power Yoga. I did that last summer when I was just bored at home in quarantine. And so I got to earn that over Zoom, and that was really cool. And it's nice. Lisa Long, the professor at Cal State Fullerton, always sort of tried to push us to get a certification or something, and make money in a way that you can relate to your field. And so yoga is such a great way to, it's such a great tool for dancers. And so that's kind of what inspired me to get my yoga certification. And hopefully I'm going to start teaching yoga soon once these studios open back up down here. I live in Mission Viejo right now, South Orange County. But yeah, so other than that, yeah, I've just been auditioning for companies, and sometimes flying to Utah. I auditioned for repertory dance theater over in Salt Lake City. I've auditioned for things locally as well. And so I think the key, one of the key pieces of advice that I want to give is just consistency. Consistency with going for things that you may not feel ready for. Chances are you're not going to feel ready for a lot of things, but you have to put yourself out there anyway. Not every answer, not every audition is going to be a yes, but just by sheer numbers, one of them is going to be a yes. And so just keep going for those things that you might not feel ready for. I think something that is an issue for women, especially in dance, is that you don't feel ready for an audition because you don't feel perfect enough. Especially since dance is a field that's very oversaturated with women. The bar is just higher for women. It's just a fact, unfortunately. And so I've dealt with this myself, where I feel like, oh, I don't want to go to that audition. I don't think I'll be noticed, or I don't think I'm ready. But I just really want to encourage you to just go for it anyway, because even if it's a no, you've exposed yourself to these people at the audition. You can network with other dancers there. And so next time when you go back to that audition, they've already seen you once. And chances are that's really going to help you the second, third, fourth time around when they see your consistency in for their company. Yeah. Am I at time?
You are, but I really just want to say thank you for that amazing advice. I really do agree with you. I feel like it's so hard for women to believe that they should just, put themselves out there, because there is such a pressure to be perfect all the time. And I also just want to say that watching you dance was so powerful. And I love that you want to use your craft to spread a message. I think that's so honorable. So thank you so much for sharing your words and your talents with us.
Thank you, Ayana.
Well, all right. Now we are going to go to our third panelist, Devon Hansel. So, Devon says that performing has been her life for as long as she can remember, and being on Broadway has been an absolute dream come true. She's worked at every level of the industry, from community theater to college shows to theme parks to regional theater to touring and now Broadway. But one thing that she'll never stop loving is meeting other people who are so passionate about what they do. She's constantly inspired, and she feels so grateful to have had experiences alongside other artists who genuinely love performing and making a difference in the world. Prior to the pandemic, Devon was performing as Caitlin Kelson in the ensemble of Mean Girls, the musical on Broadway. She was also understudying the roles of Gretchen Wieners, Karen Smith, and the adult women track Regina's mom, Katie's mom, and Miss Norbury. The musical is written by Tina Fey, with music composed by Jeff Richmond, lyrics by Nell Benjamin, and is directed and choreographed by Casey Nicola. So Devon, we'd love to have you turn on your camera, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Ayana. Thank you to you and to Dale Merrill and to Julie and to all the panelists who I remember from my time at CSUF and Disney. It's so cool to see all of you. Thank you for having me. This is such an honor to be here. My journey through the world of performing has been such a whirlwind. I started I performing when I was 5 years old. Did my first musical as Gretel in The Sound of Music, with our little community theater called Broadway Bound Kids, oddly enough. And from there, I just never stopped performing. I actually, after high school, went to USC for a year and was studying opera. And I had missed dancing and acting so much that I, told my mom, I was like, I think I need to find a different school, something that incorporates all of it. I miss musicals. And so I found Cal State Fullerton, and I went and I shadowed a class there. It was the, I think this junior musical theater class, and went in and shadowed the class, and I was in awe. The talent, the dedication, the passion. These were not only incredible singers, but incredible actors. And then I went to see the dance rooms and the ballet classes, and everything was just like blew my mind. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, this is where I need to go. And so unfortunately I couldn't transfer right away. So I had to do a year at a couple community colleges to build up my credits. And then I had enough credits to transfer over. I transferred in as a sophomore, and then juried at the end of my sophomore year, made it into the BFA musical theater program for my junior and senior year. I believe my year there were 10 or 11 students. And it is exactly what I needed as a performer, because, everybody's journey is different in this industry. And for me personally, I knew that I wanted more training. I wanted a controlled environment. I wanted to feel safe while I learned and fell on my face and made mistakes. And Cal State Fullerton was the perfect place for me to learn all of that. We had opportunities to perform in so many productions. We had incredible teachers. And the biggest thing that I will never forget about my time there was our trip to New York, our senior year, when we got to perform for casting directors and agencies out on the East Coast. And that is actually how I got my first agent, was through our showcase there. And I'd never been to New York before. That was actually my first time in New York. And I always knew that Broadway was a dream of mine, but I'd never even experienced New York. I didn't know what it was like. And so that was my first time there, first time performing on the East Coast. So it was so special and a time I'll never forget. But even still, once I graduated, I was so afraid to move to New York and to move to the East Coast. I'm a California girl through and through. I had been there my whole life up to that point. So I made the decision to stay in California for a few years and to build up my credits and to hopefully work towards becoming part of the Actors Union, which makes it a lot easier to audition once you're in New York. And so I did that. And actually my very first regional show, the choreographer had done a dance masterclass with us in our musical theater for our dance for musical theater class. And so she knew me. It was Dana Salamondo, who had been on Broadway in Peter Pan, and she had remembered me from that masterclass. And so it was Ragtime with 3D theatricals. And that was my first professional show after Cal State Fullerton. And after that, I worked at Cabrillo Music Theater. I worked at San Diego Musical Theater, McCoy Rigby, and even got to go up to NorCal for the renowned Sacramento Music Circus. And eventually I auditioned for the tour of The Little Mermaid. And that I booked, and it made me equity, part of the Actors Union, which was so exciting. I did that tour for a year and was able to save up enough money to make the move to New York. And so finally I had no excuse. I had my equity card, I had enough money. And so I decided to make the move on November 1st, 2016. And I was so scared. I luckily found an apartment through a friend of a friend for $500 a month out in Brooklyn, which is very, very cheap for New York. You can't find anything that price. So I was very lucky. I was working 2 jobs when I first moved here, and was going to a bunch of auditions. And the audition scene is so different out here than it was in California. There were 3 auditions a day. There are so many people at every audition. Everybody can do it all, act, sing, dance, you name it. And everybody's incredible. And it was so overwhelming. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was auditioning and then getting in class and voice lessons to keep up with everybody. And I remember this is something that I did that helped me feel this sense of control. One of my teachers at Cal State Fullerton had told us to keep an audition journal. And so I did that when I moved to New York, and I wrote down every show that I auditioned for. I wrote down what I wore, what they had me do, whether it was a singer call or a dancer call, how it went, and feedback for myself of what I could improve on if I, looking back on it, some things I could do better next time. And so 22 auditions down the journal, 22 entries in the audition journal, I was like, okay, wow, this is hard out here. And it had been November and December, and January 3rd, 2017 was the audition for Mean Girls on Broadway, the lab, meaning like the workshop of the show. That would be for a month long. And it's basically for the creative team to put the show together with actors. And so it wasn't the official Broadway show yet, but it was the next closest thing. And so I went to that female dancer call. There were 400 girls there. And I remember feeling so overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, this is insane. They, that day, I think, narrowed it down to about 75 of us. And 5 callbacks later, there were 20 of us girls. And this was just for the female ensemble that they needed for the show. So just the female ensemble. And at the very last callback, 20 girls, we had to do this really hard, insane dance combination 3 times in a row, just 3 of us at a time. And then they had us each come in and sing and do some sides. And Tina Fey was there, Casey Nicola, the director, Jeff Richmond, the composer, Nell Benjamin, the lyricist who did Legally Blonde. And it was just an insane room. And I was so nervous, but I remember just being, like, just, this is you, and just perform and give it what you got, and no judgment, and here we go. And 2 weeks later, I was working my desk job at a bar fitness studio, and I got the call that I had booked the lab of Mean Girls, and I could not believe it. But the crazy thing is, and something I'll touch on at the end, the assistant choreographer of the show, who was in there at the auditions, was the same choreographer who did the Little Mermaid tour. So going back to what our other panelists have said, that consistency and connection and being someone who's good to work with is so key, because I definitely felt like that gave me an advantage, because they knew me, from that other show. So anyway, so that happened. That was the month of April 2017. It was insane and amazing. And then 2 weeks later after that, most of us got the call that they wanted us to continue for the out of town run and for Broadway. And that was the big one. That was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. Like, this is insane. So we did the out of town run in Washington, DC, a lot of previews, a lot of rehearsals. It was very grueling, but so rewarding. And then we came to Broadway, still had more rehearsals, more changing of the show. And then on April 8th of 2018, we opened the show on Broadway. And finally, once you open a show on Broadway, the show is set. No more changes, no more rehearsals to make any sort of adjustments. That is it. And so that was my Broadway debut. And with Mean Girls and the huge following that it had, we got to do so many other things, like perform in a skit for SNL that Tina Fey was in. It was all about her, playing Gretchen in the show. It was hilarious. We ended up doing the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We did one of our numbers on the Today Show. We did, and we even got to perform on the Tony Awards that year, which was absolutely insane. So much fun. And then, was on the show for 2 years until 2020, when we sadly had the shutdown. But since then, because of the show, I've been able to do so many amazing master classes virtually with students all over the world, private lessons, big classes, small classes, adults and young kids. And so that has really kept me inspired during this time. This crazy time we're in, especially for theater, right? Because, we can't be live right now. There's no way. Although we had great news today saying that Mayor Bill de Blasio is going to prioritize theater workers getting their vaccines. So hopefully, the rumor is that Broadway will be back in September. Unfortunately, Mean Girls has closed. We found out early January that the show has closed, but auditions will be happening. Other shows that we're running will come back. And so theater itself will be back, which is absolutely amazing. But my best advice, if you are looking to get into theater right now, professionally, and Broadway, community, whatever whatever level you're looking into, always be good to work with. That is, I think, the number one thing that directors and choreographers look for, and always have a positive attitude. Um, being totally game to try something that may seem hard or may seem like, oh my God, can I do this? Kind of what Stormy was saying about, like, believe in yourself, just go for it. Even if you don't think it's something you can do, just dive in and try it. And choreographers and directors, they just love that mindset, and you will always be hired by them again for future things. Also come prepared. If you're given, a few of the ensemble members had little lines here and there, come the next day, you know exactly where it is in the show. You don't need your script. You have it completely memorized, things that we learn in school, right? That are hammered into us. Like, don't forget any of that. And also, it becomes so hard, especially with social media, but don't compare your journey to anyone else's. There are some people that move to New York right after college and pursue theater. I waited a few years to do that. I mean, everybody's journey is so different. So you have to kind of look within and be like, what do you need? What is best for you? And follow that and believe in that, and know that just because somebody else is doing something different doesn't make your path any less valid or good for what you need. And yeah, and also cherish any performing opportunity that comes your way, whether it's community theater, Broadway, regional, a school production, theme parks, cruise ships, a tour. It is all special and it is all important. So yeah, find any way to keep that passion alive. And I don't know how I'm doing on time, but that is all that I have prepared today. I can't wait to also do the Q&A and hear everyone's questions. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your words and for your experience, Devon. I just know that all of the experience you've had, like just throughout your life, has made you the performer that you are. And I really, really hope that I get to see you perform one day, because I have a feeling that you are incredible. And I am so grateful to have you here and to have just learned from you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
again.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, well, now we are going to go to our fourth panelist, MARVELLA MURO. And MARVELLA is the Director of Artistic Programs and Education at the Self-Help Graphics and Art. She oversees and implements its exhibitions and spearheads the long-standing professional print program, Barrio Mobile Art Studio, and Summer of Youth program. Since joining in 2019, curated ateliers and special projects in SGH's renowned serigraph studios, established the Artists Committee to guide its monthly Artist Lab series. She also restructured its Artist in Residence program, now called Beyond the Pressed, inviting multidisciplinary artists to create a body of work with or guided by SGH communities. As the head of education, she launched a youth committee and the Creative Lab partnership with a local high school. In the fall of 2020, she completed the multifaceted year-long census art campaign that involved the Serigraph Studio and BMA's program to educate and encourage participation. She was formerly the community engagement manager at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, developing and executing art programs with community partners and artists in Compton, North Hollywood, and East Los Angeles. Prior to joining the education team, she had various curatorial roles at LACMA and as executive assistant and project manager at USC Pacific Asia Museum in Pasadena. She has a BA in art history from CSUF and an MA in arts management from the Goucher College in Maryland.
May I borrow your pencil again?
So, MARVELLA, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Ayana. Thank you, everyone, for having me and for inviting me to speak. I haven't been back to the campus, and I've driven by it a couple of times, and I've seen how much it's changed. So I'm going to begin a little different than everyone else. I'm going to provide some context about my background to provide you with the context of my journey through Cal State Fullerton and to where I am now. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So this is the front mural of Self-Help Graphics, and it was located in East Los Angeles before for 30 plus years. I am from East Los Angeles myself, being born and raised there. I have to admit it was a bubble within a predominantly Mexican American Mexican community. I was raised by a single mother. I'm an only child, and with my mother having limited access to or a limited education, and a working class family from a working class, it was very difficult for me to navigate the system. And so I went to school into Cal State Fullerton, just knowing that I needed to go to college, but really without any proper guidance or discipline or structure of, okay, this is what you need to do, this is the next step, and this is why, and what would you like to do? So that's how I navigated my first years of Cal State Fullerton. I'm aging myself here. I graduated in 1999. This is a picture of myself and my mother in front of the gallery. So I think, like many students or first generations in the university, it was a difficult transition without actually knowing that it was a difficult transition. But it was overwhelmed by the excitement of going to school, the freedom of living in the dorms or having your own place. I think I hear it now more, like I'm learning more that first generation students, the high rate of dropout. So now now that I'm much older and hearing that's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. By any means, I was not an exemplary student. I lacked the structure, again, the discipline, and the overwhelming freedom of just navigating life on my own. It really had a lot of drawbacks. And I also come from, my mother was very quiet, with the culture of, just work hard, keep your head down, and do your best. And so I didn't ask a lot of questions. I just, again, navigated on my own. I worked throughout school. I was a full-time student, and I worked part-time to be able to have that apartment with a bunch of roommates. I was undecided for about a year and a half. And I don't remember when my first art history class was, but I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. And when I met with my professor, or the advisor, Dr. Capel at that time, I remember she was a German lady, and she's like, well, what are you going to do with art history? And I'm like, I don't know, but I like it. So I'm just going to continue with it. And the turning point, I don't know what the turning point was for myself to get my act together, but I did. And my grades were getting better and better. But I do know that the turning point for me of finding a direction was when I took the exhibition design class, which I'm very disappointed that is no longer offered. But it was a turning point for me, because it made me realize the multiple opportunities within the arts, visual arts, that I can work in, the different careers. So with that, after graduating, I had a great internship in Utica, New York, at the Munson Williams Proctor Institute, a fantastic museum, historical and contemporary art museum. And then again, it exposed me to a different world, a different state. And I traveled on my own on the Greyhound to the city, New York City, as well as to Boston. So after I graduated and I came back from my internship, it was like, okay, now what? And navigating for a job was quite difficult. Again, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have all of the online services that are available today. So it was about networking, but I didn't have that network as of yet. And through a friend, a colleague at Cal State Fullerton, she was working at the Museum of Long Beach, Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach, and she connected me with a startup. And this is, again, the beginning of websites and the internet boom. I'm aging myself again. And I started working at latinart.com, an online magazine that focused on contemporary and modern Latin American art. And really, this was my school for exposing me to this whole different world, both, again, modern and contemporary art, the museums and all in Latin America. And it really helped me start practicing and honing and really embracing my first language, which is Spanish, that I was losing and speaking poorly at the time. When I came back from my internship and worked at latinart.com, I was waiting tables as well. And so doing latinart.com and serving tables because I also wanted to have my own place. This latinart.com, I was the website and content coordinator. And then this position exposed me to art galleries as well as to the art fairs. And so I had the chance to travel. And it was poorly paid, but I was compensated in different ways through these trips. And again, with all the people that I was exposed to. I also was exposed to different alternative spaces, and I began a kind of volunteer internship with an alternative or an artist-run space founded by another Cal State Fullerton alumni, and who I had met while on campus, and we reconnected, and to this day we're still very good friends. And so I continued doing that. And at one point I'd had like 2 jobs plus an internship just to be able to pay the bills and have my own place. But it was also to get myself more connected to new people and continue going. I'm glad to hear, I can't believe one of the other panelists mentioned about the connection with Craigslist, because I had my other job through Craigslist that an art gallery posted a position on Craigslist, and I applied and I got the job, and I was there for about 5 years. And working at the galleries, it just emphasized or further made me understand how much I enjoyed working with artists. And I realized during that job that I had a knack for management, and also I had the opportunity to curate the summer exhibitions at the gallery. And in 2008, and I think this will resonate with a lot of the new graduates or those who will be graduating. So in 2008, we had the recession, and the gallery I worked for closed. And I was very scared, and but thankfully, the director of the gallery helped me navigate and find me a new job at a different gallery. And so I was there at the second gallery for about a year. While that kind of one door closed, the other opened, which is the gallery, but another door opened, which was grad school. And so I went to grad school for arts administration. That was a 10-year gap between going from my undergrad to graduate school. And I was there in the second gallery for about 1 year. And the reality was that the owner, who has been part of the gallery world for decades, if not centuries, she was very condescending and made a lot of racial comments. And I threatened to quit like within 6 months. And she asked me to please stay, things would change. And within another 6 months, I finally quit, and it worked out because I was in school and I took out a lot of loans in order to be able to navigate the very high unemployment of the time, but also to care for my mother who was diagnosed with cancer. And so for about a year and a half, for about half a year, I was focusing on school and taking care of my mother to try to get her all of the services that she needed. But then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. And the recession it still kept at it. And so unemployment was still high, and it took, I think it was about a full year that I could not, get a call back or not even an interview. And it was a very demoralizing period, questioning yourself and your talent, your value, your knowledge. And, I just kept on focusing on my school and learning from my peers at that time. And, just you had your good days and you had your bad. But then finally in 2012, I'm sorry, there we go. In 2012, I was hired as a curatorial assistant for a large exhibition curated by the American Art Department at the LA County Museum of Art. And a lot of it had to do with my fluency in Spanish. A lot of it had to do with my administration skills and the fact that I was going to receive my graduate degree. And I have to say that, I was going to school. So I was going to school and working 4 days a week at LACMA. I'd stay till like 9:00 p.m. at LACMA. After after my work hours, I'd stay till 9 p.m. just working on my homework and paper. And I learned to navigate a large organization. It's quite a bureaucratic system. And the way I did it is by talking and connecting face to face with everyone there. The position that I had there required me to work with the conservation, with the art handlers, with the education department, with the registrars. And during that position, it allowed me to travel with the exhibition all the way to Quebec. It was a cross-country trip on a 18-wheeler. That position was a contract for 6 months, and I was able to navigate the system so much that, everyone knew me. And so the finance department actually called me to do a fill-in for the summer, and they wanted to keep me, but between us, it was very boring, but I loved the people. And when the position opened up in the Chinese and Korean art in the fall, I was like, I really miss working with the art objects. And I know nothing about the Chinese and Korean culture, but the head of the department, the curator, he was teaching at Harvard, and he needed somebody as an administrator to then learn how to navigate the system, did all the paperwork and all of that. And that was the position. And he took a chance on me, and I said, okay, I'm going from curatorial assistant to administrator, and that is a step down within the eyes of the system. But I was like, I don't care. I really enjoy working at LACMA. I love my peers, and let's go for it. And I was there for 2 years, and he was a great mentor, and the head of the department, and he allowed me the opportunity to curate the permanent collection. I did a lot of public programming, working with the education, and I also did a different educational initiatives to putting myself in the foot of the audience so people can understand the cultures and the artwork much more. So that gave me a lot of opportunities. I was doing the work of a curatorial assistant, or actually an assistant curator, but getting paid as a curatorial administrator. And the curator assistant curator there and within the department, she had the opportunity to move to as a director at the USC Pacific Asia Museum. And I went along with her because I was not able to get a raise, or I wasn't given the proper compensation for the work that I was doing. So I went with her, and as I was the executive assistant at Pacific Asia or USC Pacific Asia Museum, my key role was administrative day-to-day operations, but there was a void in the education department. And so I kind of filled in with the public programs. And then when they hired the director of education, I continued working with him with public programs. I think here, working here, it allowed me to understand and really delve in in an organization, or working in an organization at the 40,000 feet level. I'm thinking about structure, management. So that was a great opportunity to do that. And then also within my public programming, I had a better opportunity to work with building relationships with the different community organizations that we invited to perform or create artwork. There was a position a year later at the LA County Museum of Art for community engagement manager. And it was everything I was doing at Pacific Asia Museum. And I will say that if I hadn't left LACMA for this as the executive position, I don't think I would have gone from the arts administration, the curatorial administration position straight into community engagement manager. That additional experience really gave me the additional skills and tools, experience to get to this point of community engagement manager. And I have grad school to thank for giving me the tools and the awareness at the nationwide level and the vocabulary to do this job very well. I worked in 3 communities, as Anaya mentioned, North Hollywood, Compton, and East Los Angeles. Very different demographics, very different histories, very different issues that they're all experiencing. And one of the key, the things that I took from this experience is how to work with community and create, and the key things that I really highlighted from this experience and took from this experience and continue to do so for my current job is the being transparent, being consistent with my relationships with people, consistency in communication with people, not only with the community, but with your peers, face-to-face engagement. And I know it's difficult right now with COVID. Inclusivity to build agency. So not creating art for or programs for, but programs with community is very crucial. And finally, Director of Artistic Programs and Education at Self-Help Graphics. I have to say that all of my experiences and the things that I learned are all combined into this position. I provide through my work, I provide a platform for artists, both who are self-taught and or formally who have received a formal education. We provide empowerment through the arts. And for myself, again, we're now in Boyle Heights, but it's still my home. And it's for me coming back in to my home and going back and giving back to my community with all the skills and experiences that I've been able to acquire from being out in other places. So very quickly, our programs continue to be informed by community. So I developed an artist committee who helped me identify the exhibitions and also who we invite in our professional print studio, which you see here. And then we also created a youth committee because I have no idea what the youth want. And so they tell me and inform me through our community engagement coordinator. We also have artivists. Artivists are youth and internship that work very strongly with our advocacy work, focusing on anti-gentrification and anti-displacement. So it's youth who are learning how to combine social justice with art, as well as our youth committee. And we also are participating in local community meetings, so we have our ear to the ground and know what the community wants. Our exhibitions are reflective of what the artist community wants. Our studios and our works, the space itself is provided as a workplace for artists when they need that space. And then also finally, our education programs are always instilled with not only with technique, educating individuals about technique, but also it also includes a component for professional development, whether you're going into the artistic realm or the workforce. So we're thinking about how to improve community individuals and really feel empowered. Takeaways that I'll leave you with. So navigate the system. Don't be afraid to question it. And that's something that I'm still learning to do. As I mentioned, I used to be like, keep your head down and just work. And I'm feeling empowered by the youth to ask and to question the system. Take chances. The example, I think everybody in all the panelists have shared that. Take chances. Move forward with an open heart and an open mind. Connect with people. That's the networking, but also just to just regular people that are maybe not in the arts. The art world is so small. The person that you met 10 years ago, you will connect with them sooner or later. And because the art world is so small, always think about how you can support your peers, because they will help support you in becoming successful. And this is another thing that I'm still learning, approach others at eye level. Don't feel lesser than people with more money. Don't feel lesser than people who are different social statuses. You have skills, you have the knowledge, you're always learning, but don't feel inferior. And I think that I end with the art world is still lacking gender, racial, and monetary equality. But again, I find so much hope in really looking at our youth and how the youth is really speaking up. And I close with this image again, with the little slogan here in the heart that says art transforms communities. And I think that through my amazing experiences and also negative experiences, I've learned that art transforms communities, because it has transformed me into who I am now. Thank you. And I'll stop sharing.
Marvella, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. You are beyond inspiring, and I am just so grateful to have received that advice from you. Thank you so, so much. Thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you to all of you in the audience for being here today. I'd love to have some of your questions come through, but regardless, we do have some questions ready for our panelists. And so I have a question for Devon. I just have to ask, how did you feel while recording the Mean Girls soundtrack? And how would you describe that process?
Sorry, I'm coming back. My video's not working. Start video. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had a delay last time too. You asked about the Broadway soundtrack, right? And recording that. Oh my gosh, it was unreal. It was crazy because we recorded it in New York at the studio where most Broadway recordings happen. And so walking in and you see the wooded panels and like, it was just it was unreal. There's a number that we do, that we use trays, where do you belong? And so we actually had a separate recording session of just like hitting the trays on the ground with the mics right there. And we had our music director. It was so exciting and so thrilling and so humbling to be, in that space where so many like Broadway stars had recorded, their own shows. So yeah, it was unreal. It was really, really cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That one was for me. I just had to know. I did.
I love
Um,
that.
Stormy, if I could ask you a question now. I know you said that you were really into modern dance, and I know that there are always so many new things happening. How do you stay up to date with all the different dance trends?
Um, I mean, I guess kind of what I was saying before about networking and putting yourself out there, the more that you're like kind of on the scene, the more you're going to know what's going on. So go to class in your community or wherever you live, go to those different dance classes, meet different dancers, connect with them, get their phone number, go, connect with them on social media. And also people who are teaching the classes and choreographers that you meet. That's how I stay connected. And I love like seeing everyone on social media and people post videos. And so you get to see what people are doing beyond just your own style, beyond just what I do, modern dance. I get to see what people in the ballet world are doing or in the commercial dance world. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Kristen, I have a question for you. So, what are some like crash course tips you can give us to help us excel in voice acting in the same way that you have?
Sorry. Mine's having a delay too. Okay, here we go. I think that's a thing. Oh gosh. Okay, crash course in studio related singing. Well, I know this is one of those boring answers because, we know this, but it just really, it can't be emphasized enough how important vocal health is, especially with session singing. Like when you're singing so intimately with a microphone, it captures everything. So actually, okay, quick plug. One of my colleagues, she had invented the singing straw. She didn't invent straw phonation. That's been around for a long time. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but it's where you essentially vocalize through a thin diameter straw. And long story short, it just keeps your voice in the best possible shape it can be in. It's also the quickest, most efficient warm-up you can do. It's similar to doing like a V or a lip trill, but with way more bang for your buck. If anyone has more questions about it, please feel free to email me. My email is just my name @gmail.com. And if you go to singingstraw.com, you can use promo code KRISTEN, my name, for 10% off. So vocal health, I'd say, is huge. Oh gosh, what else? It is very much of a perfectionist kind of thing, which is good and bad. With session singing, if you're recording remotely, again, the mic picks up every little thing. And versus when you sing or perform live, the moment comes and goes, right? And what happened, it is what it is. But when you're recording, you do have the power to fix things, which is a double-edged sword. So just having the patience for, I hate the word perfection. I'm not trying to say perfection, but yeah, if that makes sense. That was all kind of scattered, sorry. Vocal health, patience for refining, and what was the question? What are like crash course tips for session singing? Yeah, and networking, and just like meeting people specifically in the industry, because I meant to mention this earlier in my presentation, but session singing is hard to find information on. If you Google like standard voiceover, like for acting, there's tons of resources, tons of training programs, this and that, whatever, for regular voiceover. But for session singing, which is essentially voiceover singing, there really is not a lot online to help guide you. So just really starting to kind of get in the network as much as you can will really help, because it's not something you can just Google if that makes sense. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, I have a question for Marvella. Do you feel like there's a strong correlation between what you learned at Cal State Fullerton to what you're doing right now?
I think community. I think that the relationships that I built with my colleagues at Cal State Fullerton. I mean, I'm still have relationships with a lot of them that have contributed to self-help graphics. One of the Teresa Avila is a teacher at Cal State Channel Islands, and she has been a rock for me, and we do work together. Um, I think also for me, coming from East LA, going to Cal State Fullerton was a culture shock. And so that exposure to different people is definitely something that I still carry with me and into the work that I do. And again, that open heart, open mind, and being always listening to the community is I still carry that forward.
Thank you so much. That's very, very insightful. And we have a question from Sophie. Devon, Sophie wants to know what's something that you wish you learned at Fullerton before getting into the industry?
Awesome question. The one thing that I think I wish I would have learned before getting into the industry would be, I guess, more tools for mental health. And I think this can go beyond just theater artists. I think this can go for visual artists and dancers and singers, everyone. But I wish we would have had maybe a class or a master class on, I think, mental health. I think it's so easy as artists, for our job, we're required to be more sensitive and more emotional. And sometimes I think that can be really hard to handle in an intense atmosphere and, being on stage and the pressure. And also what Kristen was talking about, perfectionism is like not always a great word, but it seems like it's always required of you, So I think that's the one thing that I think I wish I would have learned before getting to Broadway is taking care of your mental health. And that can look different for everyone, right? It can be something as simple as writing in a journal every night. It can be something as simple as, making sure you schedule time with friends. If you get so busy, you have so many auditions and dance classes and this and that you don't take time to have time with your girlfriends or to call your family or anything as simple as that, and talking about how therapy is important too. So important, just having an outside ear to listen to just anything and everything happening in your life and can help you, point out patterns that maybe are unhealthy and can help you move forward in a good way. So that's the long-winded answer to the one thing that I wish I would have known before getting into the industry.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Devon. I really do feel like that's just so important for all of us to recognize and know. Well, I have a question for each of you, actually. And what is one thing that you would tell your 18-year-old self from where you are right now? And Devon, since you're here and you're unmuted, why don't we start with you?
My 18-year-old self. One thing I would tell her is that, and we're told this all the time too, but to really believe that your uniqueness is what will set you apart, and to not try to be what other people are looking for, and not just in the artist industry, but even in your own life. Not everybody. I have always had a huge problem with being a people pleaser and trying to be what I think other people want me to be, and at the end of the day, that does not lead to happiness. Happiness comes from being you in your own life and in your art, bringing that into your art, because you and what your heart and soul, what defines you is what makes you special and what will make you stand out in whatever your industry is. So I would tell my 18-year-old self, be who you are and love who you are, and your art will shine because of that.
That's wonderful. I love that. Oh, tears. Okay, now can we hear from Stormy? What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, I teared up just hearing this question, but I think I would tell myself that it's all going to work out, and you're in the perfect spot right now, and just appreciate where you are right now, because um, you know, you're always going to be chasing something at every moment of your life, and so you have to stop and remember to appreciate the moment that you're in before it's gone. And then someday you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, like that was some of the best days of my life, you know? Um, yeah. So just know that everything is going to work out for you. And even if you're in a tough moment right now, it's not forever. I know like college life is really hard and intense. But also when you're gone, you're going to miss it. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. I 100% resonate with that. I feel like it's especially true right now with the pandemic. Just all of us as artists being so used to expressing what we do in a specific medium, and having that medium taken away can be very, very painful. And so, thank you for your words. And I know your 18-year-old self, somewhere back in time, is like, wow, that really touched me, because I know you just touched everyone too. Um, Kristen, I would love to have you answer the same question.
Thank you both for that. That really was so beautiful and touching, really. And kind of going off with what Devon was saying too, like not to pigeonhole yourself. I feel like there's a lot of pressure at the beginning that you have to pigeonhole yourself into something in order for you to be taken seriously in that one thing. But that's not what we are as human beings. You know, we do lots of different things and have lots of shades and colors to our skills. And so to really embrace, particularly for singing, your own unique sound, don't try to copy someone else. Like you are the only one with your vocal signature. Literally, it's that simple. And the world needs that. And for every person that you look up to or glorify, someone's doing the same thing to you. And I think Devin had said this earlier as well, like with social media, it's so hard. We're just comparing, comparing, comparing. But for every person you're looking at like this, like someone else is looking at you the exact same way. Um, and yeah, just believe in yourself and embrace what you know is you. And that will shine through and that will get you opportunities. And people will see that when you allow yourself to show it.
There we go. I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you so much for that. I really do feel like that's so important to remember. Just individuality is so precious for all of us, and it's just so important to embrace who we are and the talents and the voices that we've been given. So thank you so much. Marvea, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
When you first asked that, the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh my God, don't screw up. I'll tell my 18-year-old, don't screw up. But, you know, I don't know what else to add to what hasn't been, to what's been said. From my experience, I would tell myself, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Take chances, because I know that I didn't take a lot of, try things because of that fear of how you're perceived, how you look and how people look at you. And so don't be afraid to take chances.
I love that. And I really do feel like that's something so important to know. I feel like women, a lot of the times, we're so just inclined to shrink ourselves down and to hide away from the chances that we could be taking and embracing. Well, Maravea, while you're here, I'd love to ask you another question. What is your favorite aspect of working for a community arts organization with such a strong reputation for supporting Latinx artists?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
Yeah, I think my mic may have cut out.
No, no.
So, what is your favorite aspect of working for a community arts organization with such a strong reputation of supporting Latinx artists?
It's I think for me personally, is the freedom that I have, that I'm being given, or that I'm empowered with to be creative with other artists. And so that's something that is not found easily when you're empowered by your supervisors, to be the best that you can and take chances, take risk. So I think that from its founder, a sister Karen Bocalero, who is an artist, she took that risk in finding this space and creating this space, and and a space that obviously, given its 47-year history, I think 48 years now, it's something that we are still very relevant, and so there's much pride to that, and that's where I take my pride.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
I have another question for Stormy. So, Stormy, how would you describe being in a dance company? How's that experience been for you so far?
I love it. It's a dream come true, honestly. That's been my goal since I started dancing as a kid. I think that someone said this earlier, but being easy to work with is such a key thing for being in a company, or any kind of project that you're working on, and just being willing to go for things. I think Devon said that. And, being willing to work as a team with your fellow dancers, because they become your family. You have to get along with them. And I don't know, just also like embrace your individuality, like everyone else is saying. You're in the company for a reason, because you bring something specific, an individual to the table. So it's been amazing for both of the companies I'm in. And like I said, I love the variety that I get with the two sort of different styles and different performance opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Stormy. That's super insightful, and I really, really agree. Individuality is just so important. I cannot emphasize this enough, and I feel like we're all kind of like, you're an individual, embrace it, love yourself, it's important. And so, for everyone in the audience, embrace it, love yourself, it's important. Okay, well, I have another question for KRISTEN. KRISTEN, we would really, really like to know what the process is for voice acting. So when you sign on for a new job, what exactly are you doing? What is this process? What does this process look like?
Yeah, sure. And honestly, I haven't done any straight voice acting. It's always been music related, like singing. And so the process might look a little bit different. But generally, again, what happens is when a vocal contractor knows who you are and they kind of have you in their lists of people, they will reach out to you for a gig. And if it's something televised, then they can get you, it's called Taft-Hartley lead into the union, into SAG-AFTRA. I'm actually glad you asked this, because I wanted to mention earlier, if you're ever offered something where you have the opportunity to join the union, do it. I am kicking myself. I did a union gig back when in my early 20s, but I was like, I don't have $3,000. I'll join later, but that's like the eligibility expired. So now I have to be offered something else to get into SAG-AFTRA. So if you get offered, do it, because then you're in and you'll be offered some great opportunities through that. But generally what happens is you get sent materials. If it's classical, generally you're sent sheet music. If it's pop or contemporary, you might just be sent a lyric sheet with like a guide vocal and backing track. My best advice, if that happens for you, is to always cross-check all three of those things: the guide vocal, the lyric sheet, and the backing track, to make sure there aren't discrepancies, because 99.9% of the time there are. where a note in the guide vocal was different than the note in the instrumental, and the word "and" was on the lyric sheet, but the guide vocal didn't say the word "and," and just like taking the time to like send an email, bullet point out all those little questions. It will save you so much time recording, because when you are recording, you don't want to have to be thinking about those little things. It just really throws you off, and can be a major time suck. So that's something that's really helpful. But right now, if you're looking to get this kind of work, I'd say focus on getting that demo together, and exploring vocal contractors, sending your demo to them. And then they kind of end up putting you on their list of like, oh, musical theater singer, classical singer, or where you might fit. And hopefully you'll hear from them. CoComelon was kind of an unconventional thing. Marvella, I'm glad I have a fellow Craigslist success story. Yeah, so I'd say start getting a demo together and just reaching out, sending it out to people, and practicing recording yourself from home. So if you can invest even in a super basic setup, that is hugely helpful if you can get used to doing that in your own setting, so that if you do get hired to go in studio, it does not feel so intimidating.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's wonderful advice. We have a question from Sarah, and this question is for anyone. How have you set boundaries when working on projects while still taking chances? And so if you feel a particular affinity to this question, feel free to unmute.
I'll go ahead and answer this one. I think this is such a great question for artists, because I think we want to participate in our art so bad, and we just have such a passion for it that we're sometimes willing to throw boundaries out the window. But as you get older and kind of realize, oh, I'm actually kind of uncomfortable with that, it can sometimes be scary speaking up, because you don't want the choreographer to not hire you again, or the director to think you're not good to work with. I mean, I think especially, you know, for women, we're looked down upon a little bit more than if a man speaks up, you know, just for societal reasons. And so I think it is something that is so important to speak up about. I do believe in challenging yourself, like what Stormy said. You know, in every way possible, if it's something you're a little bit scared about. But I remember even at Cal State Fullerton, we were doing Xanadu, and the wonderful Bill Lett choreographed, and I had to wear roller skates in the show, and I had to go down a ramp, and he wanted me to go down the ramp without using the little toe stop. And I tried it, and I was too scared, and I was like, Bill, I'm so sorry. Like, I need to use the little stopper to just help. And he was so great about it. He was like, okay, of course, you know, but that for me was like scary, you know, to speak up about. But I think that we need to totally be okay, especially when it comes to safety, right? Or, you know, saying or doing something we don't feel comfortable with. Just expressing your thoughts and being like, I actually don't feel super great about this. Can we maybe try this? Or like, have an alternative to give them too. While still, you know, you definitely push those boundaries, but if it's something you're uncomfortable with, you know, speak up. And that's something that I've learned, you know, through the years too, is that it is 100% okay to do so. So I hope that kind of roundaboutly answered the question.
No, that was perfect. Oh, Marvella.
Yeah, I just like to add a different perspective from an organizational perspective, working under organization. For us, yeah, it's the same thing. Like you want to do everything, right? Especially if you believe in those causes. But for someone working under an organization, it's always revisiting your mission. Does it align with your mission? Do we have the resources, financial and the personnel to do the work, or are we going to really burn ourselves out to try to do this work? Mm-hmm.
That's so important. I completely agree. Stormy, do you have anything that you would want to add to this question?
I think I'm just kind of echoing what Devon said, like, don't be afraid to speak up. And if you're afraid of not working with that choreographer again or something like that because you set a boundary, I think our generation is kind of, you know, speaking up a little more and becoming more comfortable with that. And the way I think about it is, you know, if I have to feel afraid about speaking up because they might not ask me to do work again, then maybe I don't want to work with them again, you know? So, yeah.
And if I could just add to that, like almost always when you're speaking up for yourself, you're speaking up for so many other people. Always. You know, it's like so many other people who are holding their breath. They're like, oh, thank God she said something. Or, you know, and I love what Stormy just said, which is because we're so conditioned to be yes people as performers. Yes to this, yes to this, yes, yes, yes. Like, especially at the beginning when you're just trying to do everything. But as you work more through that, you'll find yourself getting more focused and not feeling like you're just grabbing at everything. And yeah, if something doesn't feel right and you feel like you're fighting it, it probably isn't right and is not worth sticking with, you know? And the right people, you'll find the right people.
That's awesome, Kristen. Thank you so much. Okay, well, now I have another question for Devon. Devon, so, is there a website where you can find auditions for like leads or for replacements? The person that submitted this question heard that they usually call on people that they know, but do you have any resources on where to find these things?
So yes, so if you're part of the Actors Equity Union, all of the auditions are there. If you're not, it is harder to find those auditions. If you have a friend who's in the union who's super cool and sweet, you can always ask them to like send you the list. There's also, I believe, Backstage, and also Stormy and Kristen, feel free to add in on this too of anything, because I've just been on that Actors Equity website for the past like 4 or 5 years now. But I did hear that Backstage was a resource that you could use. Actors Access was also one. They do a lot of non-union work, so if you're not a part of the union yet, you can sign up for the emails there. Casting Frontier is also another one. And I believe a lot of these sites that you can pay for a membership to get I believe that gets you access to be able to submit for certain auditions. Every site's a little different. But yeah, if you're not a part of the union, Backstage, Actors Access, Casting Frontier. If you are in the union, Actors Equity is like the #1 place for you to go. That's my suggestion. So yeah, if any of you have any other suggestions as well. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want to be like the social media person, but that's where I find a lot of my stuff. So just following the companies on Instagram that you're really interested in, and then just keeping up with what they're posting. That's kind of what I do.
Is it okay if I add something real quick? I was just going to say also creating your own opportunities. I think that's something like we forget about a lot. You know, and it depends on what part of the industry you're in, but just like be entrepreneurial. The more entrepreneurial you can be in this industry as well, oh my gosh, just so many amazing things can come from that. So if you have an idea of something, put yourself out there, versus always relying on other people for work.
That's a suggestion for the department, adding a course on artists as entrepreneurs. That is very needed.
You are all so insightful and so powerful. I'm loving this. Thank you all so much for your comments and for your advice. I have a question that I want to ask to all of you, starting with Marvella. How do you keep yourself grounded and motivated?
Well, I'd be lying to say that during COVID, that it's been easy. It's been very challenging. And I think that a lot of my peers, going from on-site programming to the virtual platform, especially my older generation I started in my first job was like one of the early websites. So it's kind of like mind-boggling that I'm being part of an early website person to like trying to keep up, like what are we using now, so it's been a challenge. What keeps me motivated? My 3-year-old, being with artists, the community, the feedback we receive, the artwork that's produced in the studios, And also I have to say a strong and supportive team of all women, and and um, and I think also as you when one gets older, you learn how to not take things personally, and really be mindful or more strategic in the how you invest your energy. So that keeps me motivated.
Thank you so much, Maria. Now, Stormy, I'd love to have you answer the same question.
Yeah, I stay grounded and motivated by exploring interests outside of dance. Um, like I'm going back to school for something else in communications now. I'm also learning Spanish in my free time. I like to go outside. I like to visit. I visited the Pacific Northwest a couple years ago, and I just love it there. And just getting outside like really helps me stay grounded and makes me realize that, my problems aren't really that significant. But yeah, I think Kristen said this earlier, but just remember not to pigeonhole yourself. You're not just a dancer or just an actress or whatever. You are multifaceted. You have so many other talents or, avenues that you can go down. And so I think that also helps me like love dance a little bit more because I can step away from it and explore other things and then come back to it and be like, oh yeah, I still love this, So that's how I do it.
I love that. Thank you so much. Devon, how do you stay grounded and motivated?
Yeah. It's so funny, Stormy, because I feel very similar to you. I stay grounded and motivated by doing things outside of performing. I didn't used to do that. And I found that I was getting very exhausted and burnt out. And, I was like, what is happening? I love this, why, but it's because I was making that my life 24/7 and not realizing, like you said, Stormy, that we are multifaceted people. We have so many different, so many other qualities than just our art, which we love and we're so passionate about. But it's so good to supplement that with things like going outside. During COVID, like I got really into hiking, and I even started, doing a little paint by numbers, and I called my family more. I was always so busy. I realized, and they're all out in California, I'm here in New York, but I wasn't making enough time for them. So, bringing my family back into my life, um, things like that, having those passions outside of your art, so that when you do come back, or when you watch a show again, or even watching Hamilton on Disney Plus, I was a sobbing mess because I was like, this is what I love to do. I love theater. So it's just like, but you remember that when you take that time to recharge. It's like anyone who works a 9 to 5, or anyone, they go see shows and they go, supplement their time at work by being around art. And so we have to do the same thing. So yeah, very similar to what Stormy said. Doing things outside of my craft keeps me grounded and inspired.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Devon. And now we're going to move to Kristen.
Yes, all of the above. I had to like take some notes, but yes, all of that, and just mental health and self-care. I know it sounds obvious, but seriously, going outside, I'm big with outdoors and hiking and all of that as well. And I found the more that you can clear your mind through going outside, yoga, whatever it is for you, at least for me, who's just a total stress ball all the time, it's when I finally clear my mind that things come in, that inspiration comes in. Because I'm always trying to force it. I'm like, oh, what's the next thing I'm going to do? Well, I should do this, and then I just get really stuck and think myself into the ground. But the moment I go outside and stop thinking about everything, there will just be this moment where something comes into your mind and you're like, oh my gosh. But you have to create room for that. You have to create space for that. And to create more space for that versus just trying to do a million things for the sake of doing a million things. And what Devon had said as well, remembering to enjoy your art versus it just being your work. I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, because people ask me all the time, they're like, what music do you listen to? And I'm like, I don't listen to a lot of music because it's my life. And at the end of the day, I don't want to watch American Idol. I want to watch something else, you know. But like Devon said, like watching Hamilton and crying your eyes out, or like, yeah, listening to your favorite thing that inspired you to become the artist that you are, and taking the time to do that, I think helps reframe your position in that art and how you then affect other people as well. And just slowing down. I feel like everything I'm saying, I'm just saying to myself right now, but slowing down. I feel like in this industry, we tend to feel a false sense of urgency a lot, you know, and what helps me through that thought process, if you're ever feeling that false sense of urgency, is just remembering literally no one's thinking about me right now. Everyone's thinking about themselves and their lives and their journeys. They're not sitting up at 2 a.m. wondering what I'm going to do next. They don't care. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps anyone, but that helps me.
No, I love that. And thank you all so much just for your insight to this question. I want to thank you all for being here with us and for sharing your stories and for taking the time out of your day to inspire all of our students and all of our guests here today. I'm really, really grateful that I got to learn so much from you all. So thank you so much. I'm now going to pass things over to our wonderful Dean, Dean Merrill, to close us out for today.
Thanks, Ayana. Thank you so much for your time and your generosity. This was just amazing. Marvella, Devon, Stormy, KRISTEN, it was so, your words were so insightful, and as Ayana said, powerful. You're just really powerful people, which I love to see, and just so inspiring. I'd also like to thank the people backstage, you know, because there's always those people that help us. So Mike, who's helping organize this whole, you know, all the technical stuff, Stephanie, our backup, and then Julie Bissell for helping to arrange all this and coordinating all of this. So thank you, three. And Ayana, thank you so much for being such a great host. And like I said, in a couple, 5 years from now, we're going to have you back on the panel. Yeah. So thank you all. We did get everyone's permission, and we did record this. So we will share this with some of the other students that couldn't be here today, because there are classes going on, believe it or not. So not everyone could be here. And so thank you so much for your generosity. And we love seeing what successful Titans you have become. You know, once a Titan, always a Titan. And so we look forward to seeing many more great things that you're going to accomplish. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know what? I'm sorry, this Zoom format is weird because you don't really get to
Yeah, I know.
get that applause, but I know everyone out there in Zoom land is applauding right now. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.